Okay, here we go. We are live. Welcome back to the Canadian Bro Show. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show. This is the first iteration of the Canadian Bro Show, and it is all things Canadian, or most things Canadian,
Right.
with Pauly and Johnny. My co-host and old friend of over 50 years, Johnny Leister. We are excited and very happy to welcome our award-winning author and host on his own television show or colleagues. And by the way, I just watched their episode; it was really good. And today's episode is episode 37, exclusively entertaining. Let's hope it's exclusively entertaining. New episode 37, our spiritual journey as emissaries surrounded by the white light of love. And it's a premiere interview series, and we're so happy to have author and podcast host Claudiu Murgan. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to
Welcome,
the
sir.
Canadian Bro Show.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much for having me.
And let's just get into it, Johnny. Like
Sure.
you were just on his show, and Claudio brought some of the books that he's so Johnny. Claudia, I'm going to let Johnny take over. I'm going to ask questions, and we want to get to know you, and we're looking
Okay.
forward to getting to know you.
Thank
Let's
you.
let's let's get it on T-Rex style. All right, Claudio, it's all about you. You're in the spotlight. Let's talk about what life was like for you growing up in Romania as a child, and how would you compare that to, say, a stereotypical Canadian childhood? What are
Oh,
some of the differences?
I mean, compared to the existing childhood is different. I don't know how I was in Canada, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, but I can tell you that in Romania prior to 1989, we were under a communist regime. So as a child, you don't feel it that much. You have the parents to provide for. They have to go to work, earn a salary, and then be able to find the food for the family, because some of it was rationalized, the flour, the cooking oil, the bread, the meat,
Wow.
and you had to have some connections in order to get the good stuff. We used to have access to um, bananas and oranges only during Christmas time. So not in big quantities, but enough to have that good taste as a memory until next Christmas.
Right.
It's
Um,
funny. It's funny. He says the good stuff, and I'm thinking ice cream. I'm thinking brownies, apple
All the bad stuff.
fritters.
Yeah, those were the exotic fruits, because in terms of local fruits, like everything anyone can access, pears, apples, plums, we had plenty of those in our back garden.
I guess
But
in a communist society, there aren't a lot of fat people, I'm guessing.
oh no, no,
Pretty
and
thin,
everyone
right?
had their own
Maybe more
garden.
closer to emaciation in some cases.
Yes,
I would be
they
just imagining.
they grew their own food. They're doing canning for winter time, so they were proactive, and they were
Very
uh,
self-sufficient.
Mm,
exactly. So even that feeling and that approach has been lost in the last 30 years in Romania and
see.
other countries as well. And unfortunately, they are being more dependent on the government, and I don't think that's the right approach.
No,
Right.
no.
Right.
What did your parents do, if you don't mind me asking? Did both your parents work?
Yeah, they were working. My father was in financials, and my mom was an accountant as well.
Oh,
So
terrific.
both in financing, and again, respected in their field. And what I'm very proud of is that after 1989, after the revolution, they didn't have to watch over their shoulder because they've done anything wrong in the past. So
Right.
other people were arrested. They had to pay for their mistakes, for their indulgence. But my parents, they were smart enough and wise enough to just stick to what they're supposed to do, and not be tempted to steal or do anything else that could have put them in jeopardy later on.
I see. Now, I read on your website that when you were 11, you were writing science fiction stories. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, this is the time when I started to write science fiction, and I was in contact with those in in the community, even at that early age. And especially there's a radio show with a very open-minded host, and he decided to create a radio series based on stories from the
Is
audience.
having Oh,
We
sorry.
lost you for a second, but you're back, Paul. You're back now.
Excellent, excellent. So
Okay.
you got to finish that answer then.
So what do you want me to do? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just
Okay.
saying that I was having a glitch with the web based software that I used to film the show. Um, uh, Froze you guys, even though you were talking and still talking. So I would imagine it's still recording, but I wasn't able to hear it. So we're back
Okay.
live, and let's continue on, Johnny.
So you were talking about this radio show host, and you were a guest on the show?
No, I wasn't a guest at that early age, but I was listening to it, and I
Ah,
contributed stories for the program. And my stories were selected a couple of times for the
wow.
episodes the host wanted to put together. And the funny thing is that later on in life, when I went to university, I had a chance to meet the host and become good
Really
friends. We traveled together to science fiction conventions in
amazing.
Europe. And again, that environment had its own benefits, because the writers, especially science fiction writers, were very approachable. They were attending the convention. So we were rubbing shoulders with these known writers, and they were giving us advice. They were listening to our stories, which we were forming as writers and authors. And they're very gentle and candid when giving us advice on how we should improve our writing.
Terrific. And so, growing up in a communist country, you still had access to popular culture. Like you were watching the TV shows that Pauly and I might have grown up with. You were like, did you have movie theaters? Like, was there a lot of restriction? Because you obviously knew what science fiction was.
I mean, we had access to only 2 hours of black and white TV programming on a daily basis, and cartoons were only 1 hour, no, sorry, half an hour on Sundays, and that was a treat. And of course, the 2 hours were about the president of the country, the amazing
Of course,
harvest that was
yeah,
taking place.
propaganda.
The agricultural updates.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That sounds very stimulating.
and
If you have
and
insomnia, the
did
cure
you,
for
Claudio?
insomnia.
Yeah, no kidding. Eh? And another cure for insomnia is library access, of course,
Mm.
which is so vital to our show because Johnny films out of the Vancouver Library. Did you have access to libraries in Romania as well?
Yes, we had good libraries at that time, but again, they were restricted to only few international writers, especially on the science fiction side. Not too many translations. And again, after 1980, 1989, even the libraries started to decay. They're not updated. People were just borrowing and not bringing the books back. But again, at that particular time, the libraries were good and maintained, as at least with local authors and international, but very selective
Right,
names.
right.
Terrific.
Excellent.
So you went after high school. You went to the Polytechnic Institute of Bucharest. Is that correct?
Yes, computer
And
science. I studied there for 5 years,
did you
and
fill out those cards? Do you remember the cards, the computer cards? That's what I
we
remember from computer
yeah
science in high school.
for a little bit. So when I entered university at 18
And
years old, that was the first time when I touched a computer. So
wow,
in the whole group of colleagues, only one of us had a computer who brought from the Netherlands because he had access and the opportunity to travel. But none of us had a laptop. Don't even
oh,
mention it. So all the projects we had to work on were done at school, at the university. Of course, by the end of that time, the computers were much more accessible. I was able to purchase one, and the price was 1,500 US dollars with only 8 megaram of memory. Imagine that.
that's amazing. We lost you for a couple of minutes, Paul, but you're back now.
Yeah, it's starting to. Anyways, let's barrel ahead.
Okay, we'll barrel on through. So, well, what was your major? Your major was computer science?
Computer science, yes.
Okay. And all this time you were thinking I want to be an author. That was your number one goal?
Not necessarily, but I mean, I knew that I have some skills and I wanted to hone those skills, and that's why I kept attending the weekly clubs and reading other or listening to other people's stories and reading my stories, trying to again hone that skill, not knowing how it's going to evolve.
Right. And just to backpedal a little bit, who were some of your favorite authors growing up?
At that time in Romania, we were able to read Ray Bradbury and Isaac
Great.
Asimov, and maybe one or two more, and Dune, Frank Herbert.
Oh, sure.
Anything else, I think,
How
was
about
pretty much out there.
George Orwell, 1984? That would be appropriate. No,
No, I don't think they allowed that
probably,
book in.
probably on the banned list. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Fomenting going good ideas into people's minds like freedom.
No, of course not.
Okay. So you graduate from university, and what's next for you? Did you get a day job per se, or did you launch into your career with your computer science degree? What was the next step in your evolution?
Yeah, after graduation, I joined a private corporation with some of my friends. In fact, we set up a corporation which had nothing to do with computers, but with
Yeah.
public relations. And shortly after, I decided to immigrate to Canada, and that was a totally different story. It was meant to be because I applied or I submitted my application to the Canadian consulate in Bucharest in November, and end of November, in fact. And by the Christmas of that year in 1996, I received a thick envelope, and it was the acceptance, all the paperwork for me to sign and return.
Oh, we're lucky to have you.
So it
Double
was,
thumbs up.
yeah, it was unheard for someone to
Yeah.
receive the paperwork in 3 weeks, and then 5 months later, I had to leave. My wife was still in university. I had to live by myself.
Mm.
Very interesting story after arriving in Canada. So
Well,
you really have to.
Claudio, we're going to bring you back for a further in depth in that. Of course, we don't have too much
Cool.
time because we really want to get back to. I'll let Johnny take over as well because we lost about 20 minutes based on I don't know what the heck I'm doing sometimes. What can I say? I try.
We're good. We're
Um,
good now.
yeah, Johnny, go ahead, bro.
Okay. So, at what point did you started to think about spirituality, and how do you define that word? What does spirituality mean to you?
This word came to me much later in life, around 44, 45 years of age.
Yeah, same here.
And I think spirituality varies, the meaning of spirituality varies for each individual.
Mhm.
One can look at a church or religion and say that's my spiritual side. I go to the church and I consider myself a spiritual person. Someone else might just do a meditation and pray to God without going to a structured uh, like a church, okay,
Right.
and think that's my spiritual side. So depends on how you look at things. Recently I interviewed someone, and he said, I look at life as a ceremony, and ceremony means spirituality to me. Even if I look at a flower, I see that as a special gesture, a special connection between me and the flower. And
That's
that's
very sweet.
why sometimes it's very difficult to put a specific meaning on these two words. And if I tell someone that spirituality brings people together and religion brings them apart or separates them, they might not agree, because they are very embedded into the church
Mhm.
mentality
The
and
dogma.
the dogma. Yes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
again, it's a very sensitive environment. It has to come from within for every single one of us. So when I was 44, 45, I realized that I've been chasing money and there is something missing in my life. And this is when I start meditating, reading special or specific books like The Second Coming of Christ by Yogananda, or God Talks with Arjuna by the same author. And those books change my perception to what spirituality is, to what I should do in life in order to bring a goal forward and be focused on that goal.
That's
Terrific.
wonderful. Quick interjection, Johnny.
Yeah,
If you look at the definition of spirituality and you look at the spirituality types, and by the way, I love what you just said, Claudio, that was
yeah,
wonderful.
bravo.
And so some of the types, obviously, meditation would be at the top of everybody's tongue as the first one, which you did mention. Some of the other spiritual utilizations that we could help find, that we might all find synonymous at some level, and I guess prayer would be another aspect of your spiritual growth.
Of course, and one doesn't exclude each other. I mean, prayer is part of your spiritual being. I pray every day, and I meditate
Me too.
almost every day. There
We
is
both,
no,
all three of us do, guys.
yeah.
I tried meditation. I just don't have the patience for it. I'd rather read
Just
a book.
if you do it, sorry to interrupt, if you
Yeah,
do it on YouTube and take 30 minutes of your day and just sit down and follow one of the YouTube channels, are free.
yeah.
I can get you on YouTube, and seriously, close your eyes and you'll lose yourself for 30, 40 minutes. It's wonderful. Works.
We'll come back to spirituality because obviously it's a very broad and wide ranging topic. Claudio, when you before you came to Canada, were you already working as a, like were you already an author? Was that your main source of income, your books? Like had you already crossed that threshold?
No, no. In Romania, even at that time, there were very few uh, writers who were able to make a living just from publishing books. No, it's not an environment that entices you to make a living. The market is small. At that time, there were about 20 million people. Every single writer had a different job. Even they were either they were a journalist or working in publishing or doing anything else like in movies, but they loved to write, and they were known writers, but not with a big following that will sustain them financially. And at that time I won like 3 or 4 awards. My short stories were published, but nothing to to brag about or say, yeah, I made it. No, no
Well, I
way.
think that's a lot to brag about what you just said. So
Well,
what was your first sale? What was the first time you sold a book? Was that in Romania or in Canada?
In Canada. And the funny story, I was part of the Merrill collection in Toronto, a Friends of Merrill collection. And a famous fantasy author from US, his name escapes me, came for a book signing. I took my copy. I walked up to him. While he was signing, I asked him, at what age did you start writing? And he said 45.
Wow.
And I was about 25 years old at that time. I'm sorry, 27, 28. And my first thought was, oh my God, so old. And I can tell you that after that encounter, I couldn't write a word anymore.
Really? How come?
And I don't know, it
Uh,
was maybe something clicking in my head, or someone tried
it's
to,
too late. He's too old. It was too, maybe.
someone upstairs, maybe up there, maybe wanted to teach me a lesson. But my juices came back when I turned 45.
okay.
And then I started to write and I
So
published.
what precipitated that? Was there like for me, I started writing after I hit a peak of loneliness. I was just spending way too much time by myself, and that's when I reached out to God, and that's when my life started to turn into a more positive direction. So that was my kind of my defining moment to who I became
It
right
was
now.
your it was your it was a momental
Did,
epiphany.
did you have did you have a similar moment in your life where you went, this is what I would do, and nothing's going to stop me from doing it?
I came across a photograph done by a wildlife photographer, Canadian one, with a child kneeled in front of an elephant writing from an old book. It
Oh
was a
man.
sepia type of photograph. So I'm trying, this is the cover of my first book, The Decadence of Our Souls, trying to imitate that image is not even close. I tried to get the copyright of the photograph, but the artist didn't want to sell it. And looking at that photograph, I started to imagine what's the relationship between the child and the elephant. And I wrote about 4 pages of ideas. And then suddenly something clicked inside me and I started writing. And I wrote for couple of years. It wasn't like right away. I mean, the book didn't come right away, but I was no in no hurry. I didn't care when I'm going to finish the book. So it came out beautifully. I had some help with editing and guidance along the way, but that book, I'm very proud of it. It has a lot of symbolism, a lot of deep thinking, and a lot of spirituality in it.
Is it a narrative or is it nonfiction? Is
It
it
is a
both?
fantasy
I
book.
see. I see. Okay, like a
Yeah.
heroic fantasy, like a Lord of the Rings type story.
Yes, but no dragons, just
Okay,
elephants and the decadent
no hobbits.
world,
Okay,
and a very powerful connection between the children and the elephants, like a telepathic connections where the children are learning from the elephants, which are the teachers.
I
Yeah, and
see.
they're
And
very
is
intuitive,
it
and
part of
they're
the series,
synonymous too, eh?
or
Yeah.
is it a standalone story, or is this the beginning of
It's a
a
standalone
franchise?
story.
Oh,
Yes.
that's
And
terrific.
it kind of reminds me of when you talk about it, Claudia, the movie Pi with the tiger and the little boy.
Oh, right, I saw that.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that sort of vibe. That's just the one thing that popped in my head. And what was the name of that first book?
The decadence of our souls.
that's a
So
great title. It
we're
sticks.
interviewing here. We're going to get to know more about your writing, but is there a primary do you have like a website that is exclusively yours, or is that the TV show that is that yours, or you're working for with somebody else?
No, I mean, my website is my name, claudiumurgan.com. I have an
Got it.
independent website for the podcast, spiritualinspired.ca.
Okay.
And this week I released my personal store, soulawakeningstore.com on Shopify. So everyone can go and purchase
Sweet.
everything related to my content in one
Oh, that's
location.
great. Yeah, sorry
Terrific.
to interject. I just wanted to get it out because, Johnny didn't really tell me very much about you. And in our pre show, I didn't want to ask too many questions. So I thought we'd leave it for the show. But when you brought as many books as you have and you're celebrated and you have, Johnny, please continue on.
Okay. Do you have a literary agent?
No,
Thank
no.
you. That
I,
was the question I was waiting for.
I tried, and it's not easy to
This is a
get
recurring
one.
theme, apparently,
Right?
Pauly. It's a challenge.
Right?
It's
Oh,
like an actor trying to get an agent. It's an uphill struggle.
oh, that's for
And
sure.
I think in today's environment, based on what the publishers are paying, is not worth having one. I mean, if your book is good and you have an entrance to one of the local publishers, they will take it. I mean, I sent the latest book, Alternative Methods of Healing, which was
Great
released
cover.
2 days ago, to a local publisher from Toronto. They knew my style, but this is nonfiction and they don't publish nonfiction, only fiction.
Right.
But they told me, we love your writing style, and when you have your next novel, just send it to us and we'll look into it. But they are
Wow.
funded or partially funded by the government, and most of the publishers in Canada cannot sustain themselves from just selling the books. There is not enough market, so the government has to um, come in and provide some of the funding.
Mm.
Who's your publisher? What's the name of your publisher?
For this one is Everly Books Publishing.
Everly Books. So you have different publishers for each books? For each,
For some of them, so for Water Entanglement and Crystal Cloud, which is Volume One and Volume Two, I
wow.
had a publisher from US. And for Knowledge Keepers, which I released last year as a short book of short stories,
Wow.
and the alternative methods is Everly Books. So it just happened to be like that, and Everly liked the idea of a trilogy, non-fiction trilogy based on interviews from my podcast, spiritualinspired.ca. So they will take on the next 2 books next year.
Great.
Terrific. That's
That is
awesome.
fantastic, bro.
Okay, this is a very cliched kind of journalistic question, but if you could go back in time and meet your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give?
It's
What
always a
would you
good
tell your
question,
younger
Johnny.
self?
Always a good
What,
question.
what knowledge do you have now that you would impart to the earlier version of yourself? Let's say at 20.
Pay more attention to yourself, look more inside, and don't worry about the noise around you. Um, find the good books that might help you with your spiritual and personal development. Find a mentor that can also give you that same type of help, and understand that the most important person in life in the world is you, is me, is myself, and no one else. And of course, in time, we all have families and children, but that idea that we are the most important person in the world should
Mm,
stay with me, with yourself,
yeah, I
because
agree
this
with
is
that.
how we can help those around us.
And we lost Paul again.
Yeah.
Darn it. Yeah, I since I started doing this in 2019, most of the feedback I've gotten has been positive, but some of it has not been, and some people call me a narcissist. And I always say there's nothing narcissistic about loving yourself. You have to love yourself. What's the alternative?
Yep.
If you don't love yourself, then you won't be motivated to do whatever it is that you want to do with your life.
Indeed.
Yeah. And we lost Paul. Okay, I guess we'll just continue the interview. What's your proudest achievement, Claudiu?
Oh, if I have to talk about something outside myself, would be my
Sure.
boys.
Oh, you have
Um,
children. I didn't know that.
yes, 26 and 21 years old, respectively. Beautiful human beings, very caring. They love each other. They never fought. They
Wow,
always shared, from toys to clothing and even money when they were older. Um, everything they I mean, the interaction is amazing. And if me and my wife will, God forbid, be gone tomorrow, we know that we leave behind two children that will, let's say, for foreseeable future, they will go along and they will help each other.
that's fantastic. Now, are they? Do they have your creative spirit?
Yes, the older one is an artist. He works for an animation studio. He writes and he draws his own stories. And the younger one is still in university, second year.
Okay. So the one who draws, is he drawing comic books? Because I was a huge comic book nerd as a kid.
Comic
What,
books, of
oh, that's
course.
fantastic. What, like superhero stories?
Superheroes, but
Wow.
also again, he has his own stories, his own. He creates his own characters. He even as a graduation project, he drew a children's book,
Wow.
and it was very successful. It was quite nice.
That's fantastic. And where can we find his stuff? Does he have a website?
He has a website somewhere on the internet. If you just Google his name, Theodore Murgan, I'm pretty sure you will find
That's
uh,
terrific.
his links, because at this point I don't know if if he changed them or he kept them as before. So I rather Theodore Murgan, and you'll find his
That's
stuff.
fantastic. Well, we lost Pauly for a few minutes, but he's back. Claudio was just. Can you hear us? Okay, Pauly.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, bro. It's never happened
Okay.
before.
Technology is fussy. Claudio was just telling me that he has two sons in their early 20s, and one is a writer and a comic book artist, creating his own characters. And what does
Cool.
your other son do?
Computer science, second year
Ah,
university.
Nice.
the apples
Nice.
don't fall far from the tree. And so, what advice would you give to someone who wants to write, but they keep procrastinating, or they talk about it, but they don't actually do it? What advice would you give to that person who has these stumbling blocks in their mind, as I used to when I was a younger man?
Yeah, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't write daily. I have big gaps in my writing. So I think that if you really desire to have a final product, which is your book, you have to push yourself and you have to find what triggers you to move forward, what motivates you to move
Right.
forward. Sometimes I feel like I have to fill up my cup again before I can write for 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row every single day. It's like I feel myself, I put everything on paper, then I take a break, I fill myself up again, then put everything on paper.
Wow.
Sometimes I come up with an idea before I go to sleep and I just write it down. Or comes as a full story or comes as a fragment of a story, and later on I can integrate it into a novel. And if I work on a novel, I might finish a chapter, and if something else comes to my mind, again, I write it down, might be totally unrelated to what I previously wrote for that novel, but somehow I find a way to include it along the way before I finish the book. That will become a component of a new chapter.
That's fantastic. So you kind of answered this already, but do you plot everything out in advance, or are you more improvisational?
It's a lot of improvisation. Know how to start. I have my main idea. So let's say water entanglement. I knew exactly how to start. I knew exactly how to finish the book. I didn't know what's going to be in between. And so many things have changed. So many new ideas. At one point, like halfway, I had to kill one of the main characters.
Oh
And
no.
people who read the book said, "Why did you kill that guy?" I said, "Because I had to twist the plot, and then I
Right.
had to do something terrible
It's
to
good that they had that reaction because that means they were invested in the character. So
exactly."
you're
And
doing a
then
good job as a writer.
yeah, I had to do something tragic to the child on the cover, which is an enlightened soul. And they asked me why. I said because he had to go within. He had to find himself again in that decadent society, and it's a process for someone to come back from within, deep within, back to a conscious thought. So I had to create all these twists, which I wasn't aware of at the beginning. You know,
Okay. So one of your books is made into a movie. Who is your dream director, and who are some of your dream actors? Like when you're writing your characters, like for me, my boy Lee Hacklin, I always have Jan Michael Vincent, who is a very hot young actor from the 1970s. Do you have any specific images in your mind of your characters, or are they more generic? Like, do you have a specific actor in your mind's eye for some of your characters? And who would be your dream director? Like for me, it'd be Quentin Tarantino.
so I think James Cameron might do the decadence of all souls. I don't think I
Canadian.
have. Yeah, I don't think I have a specific actor in mind. I mean, they know that community much better than me. I don't have an eye for, the movie industry or for the casting. I don't have casting skills. And but again, I have a friend who started to write the screenplay for this particular book.
Oh,
He got sick, couldn't continue. But I gave Water Entanglement to another friend from UK, and while she was reading, she gave me pretty much the same comment that I see this book turn into a movie. That would be amazing.
that's the best
Yeah.
So
compliment.
I
Yeah.
think every single book has that. Idea of turning it into a book, the glamorous feeling that we can have our books on the big screen.
Now, one of your sons is an artist. What about him producing a graphic novel based on one of your books?
He writes his own graphic novels at this point. He has his own projects. He helped me with the podcast, with the thumbnails. And I ask him for advice when I start a new project. And sometimes he just tell me, why don't you do this? And then I go and I do it. And he's amazed. Oh my God, you did it in such a short time. And he comes back, gives me feedback. I refine it, and I move forward. So I have help from my boys from various angles.
That's terrific. So,
Quick question for
oh, go
me. A
ahead,
quick
Paul.
question for me, Johnny.
Yeah, sure.
And going back to spirituality types and triggers that might help a writer through their spirituality, their own journeys. And we mentioned meditation. We mentioned prayer. Johnny mentioned yoga. I believe you both mentioned yoga. I love yoga as well. Some of the other things that I find interesting with spirituality and our journey and our growth is the telltale signs that are usually by angels, your angels. We all have angels. And is it, does that happen to you? Is it a lucid dream? Is it a spiritual reading? Is it an affirmation? Is it an energy healing? Or is it simply working out and running and getting exercise to free the mind? Or is it like me, channeling and chanting mantras, which I probably do about 20, 25 times a day, mostly in the morning. And then there's breathing exercises because I'm an ex athlete. So everything revolves around athletics because I think it all blends together with nature, and then travel to special spiritual places. All of those things could guide you as a writer, both of you, and in some way if you allow it to touch your soul.
I agree completely in agreement with you, Paul. But for me, writing is writing. It comes as a download for sure because I just put pen on paper and it starts and
Same
it
here.
moves freely. And funny thing is, at the beginning, I say, "My guides, my angels, please help me write at least 7, 8 pages in this session." And
And that's a mantra. It's perfect.
yes, and it stops
And you
after
don't have to will
pages.
yourself to do it. It just comes naturally. I mean, I think writing for you and I is as natural as eating, sleeping, and breathing. That's what I always tell people. You know you're on the right path in life. If you have to will yourself to do something, to me, that's a signal that, like, if I decide tomorrow that I want to be carpenter, I'd quit after 2 days because it's just not in me to do that. It's in me to do this. So, like, I tried stand-up comedy. I tried it 4 times. I thought I'd be good at it. Turned out I sucked at it, and then I quit. And I thought, oh, here we go again, quitting, starting something, quitting. No, I didn't quit. I tried it out, and I just realized it wasn't a good fit for me. When I open my notebook at Starbucks every day, I uncap my pen. I'm usually able to crank out at least 1 or 2 single-space pages every day. It's just natural for me. I
Yeah,
don't have to force myself to do it. I can't wait to do it. It's like Schwarzenegger. He can't wait to go to the gym and lift those weights. You know, if you're excited to go to where you want to go or to do what you want to do, if it lights the fire inside your belly, then you know you're on the right path. That's all the
yeah.
evidence you need. Never mind how much money it makes or doesn't make, and especially never mind what other people think. We don't need the approval of other people because they'll just
Not
bring
at
us
all,
down.
and we don't need it at all, and that's why I mentioned all these things about these different types of spirituality, because every one of them, in their own uniqueness, can offer you guidance on this journey, and more often than not, multiple of them will provide that if you seek
Yeah.
and learn how to process that. So it's fascinating. I'm just very curious
Yeah,
about the
I do my
whole.
breath work in the morning. Then I do walking meditation. Again, writing is separate. I plan to. I'm flying out to Romania on Wednesdays, and I'm planning to go to at least one um, energy filled place, which everyone talks about. But there are many such places in Romania. So
So you're talking
again,
about like sort of a holistic
Like a retreat.
healing practice, basically.
this particular place, if you are referring to this place, is like a energy vortex place.
Energy healing. It's
Energy healing,
absolutely,
yes, yeah.
absolutely.
So that's why, I mean, in alternative methods of healing, I'm talking about energy healing, sound healing, breath work, reiki,
Breathing,
um,
yeah, music, yeah.
anything you can think of which is alternative to the allopathic processes available to us.
So after
And
this
I
interview, when I get on my mountain bike and I do my 10K daily bike ride, that is exactly another form of a spiritual type:
Of course.
physical, mental, spiritual, physiological, and it just it's like it nurtures the soul. That's why I love working out. It
body,
Yeah.
mind,
just
and soul.
it,
Gotta have
it's
all
really
three.
helps. Really helps.
So you mentioned that you've been back to Romania since the fall of communism. I take it that it's a better country now, that things have improved since 1989,
It's gorgeous,
economically and
Johnny.
so forth.
It's
I
gorgeous.
think depending from what angle you look at. So we just had elections in December last year, and because the um, someone who wasn't on the top three on the list, it was under the others, was able to make it to the second tour. They canceled the elections. So from that perspective, you see, and you have a lot of corruption there, exactly
Oh,
what's going on in Germany, France, in Europe in general, because
Everywhere.
UE took over the establishment in each country, and they want only their people, the far
um,
left,
isn't
to
that
be in
ridiculous?
power.
Yeah.
So right now is a big mess over there. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you mention constitution, if you mention law. Everyone at that level, or pretty much everyone, is corrupt, and they will revert any initiative to bring back the
They want the
legit
status
elections.
quo.
Yes, and
Right.
people are going on the street, they protest, but nothing happens. So economically is much better. Of course, people are wealthier, they build houses, they build businesses, they have private businesses, which before we didn't have. Everything was controlled by the government.
Mm.
But again, the country was purchased piece by piece by certain interests. And at one point, if you want to say enough is enough and cut these ties, they will come after you and they will try to blackmail you at international level, like
Oh,
the
the
regular.
world, eh? The wonderful
Okay.
world that we live in is it's like maybe it sounds like the vast majority of this planet needs a little bit more spiritual love
I think so.
to help guide them away from the darkness and
Yeah.
catastrophe that the
We're
human nature seems to.
we seem to be in the minority. We're
Yeah,
better than
well,
nothing.
I mean, and one of the reasons why our friend here moved to Canada, I'm sure the same as many other people, was to find a place where he could, have the freedom to make choices with his family and his spirituality
What
and his goals.
sorry,
You
go ahead.
know,
What made you decide to choose, like, of all the Western nations, you picked Canada? What was it specifically about Canada that caught your eye?
A university friend got married back in 1996, and she came to Canada, and she talked me and my wife into, you know what, there is nothing for you to lose. You have no assets in Romania. Just
Mhm.
come on over, stay for 3 years, get your citizenship. If you don't like it, you come back. So we had other contacts as well. So that's why at that point was a safe and wise destination. And I don't want to disappoint your viewers, but I don't think Canada now is the same Canada from 28 years ago. People are leaving.
Really?
They are seriously considering leaving, and there are more people leaving right now than coming in.
Wow.
With everything that's going on, it's not. I mean, freedom of speech is not there anymore. Um, at least the way I see it, and I try to post certain things or repost certain things online, and I was told that I'm not allowed. That's not
Oh,
for
really?
Canadian content. Um, and again, we'll see how everything unfolds. But
Johnny, it's happened to me as well with
Yeah. Well, what's
with
happening with your Facebook? Are you coming back to Facebook or not?
well, Meta. I was removed from Meta
Yeah.
and without any consultation, just a warning, of which I had no idea what I had done wrong because I've been
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Facebook for 20 years and always followed the rules. And I had four different pages,
It's
and
very arbitrary.
I just woke up one day and somebody stole my me, and they had the name of this person, and this person was pretending to be me,
Wow.
and but they decided to, instead of securing their social media sites, because they're billionaires, they have the money to secure their sites and work on security, and instead there isn't,
Yeah,
they have no security.
it's easier to it's always easier to punish the victim
Yeah,
than the
so 50,
perpetrator.
60 days later, I have another 120 days and maybe they'll reinstate it. In the
Oh
meantime,
God.
I'm not worried about it because I use 8 or 9 different social media
Right.
sites.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that you get signaled out, but there isn't any communication. There isn't
Yeah.
any reasoning why.
Yeah.
You
The
have
hammer
somebody
just
that
comes down.
you have somebody that's criminal and somebody that's doing criminal activities. It's taking advantage of another person, and Facebook knows it, and they don't do anything about it except penalize the person that's being taken advantage of.
That's
Try to
absurd.
explain that rationale.
Yeah, I
and
can't.
I'll give you another analogy. And again, people might get upset with this, but
It's the
which are
truth.
which are the biggest
Nothing
money?
upsets people more than the truth,
Okay, so
especially when they don't like it.
in your opinion, which are the biggest money launderers in the world?
Wow. Where can people find your books, Claudio? Can they buy them on Amazon?
Yes, but I prefer them to go to soulawakeningstore.com.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Cool.
gotcha. And what are you working on right now? Are you working? Is there something in progress?
I
In
just
production?
released alternative methods of healing, and I'm going to take a break until October when I'm going to work on the second volume, which will deal with psychology, mediumship, and channeling. And hopefully, in between, I will write more the third volume from the water cycle.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It sounds
I think
very intriguing. Very intriguing.
you know what? I think I'm out of questions. I've gone through my list here. Paulie, is there anything else you want to ask?
Well, in this type of situation, when you bring someone on and we have somebody that's accomplished, that has a fascinating story, that is actually has a literary agent and has some very interesting, you know, there's a lot of product there and information. And the big question is what now that you have this family, you have this new life, you have a resurgence, you're on this web channel, you're writing, what are you working on next in terms of your growth, spirituality? Are you finished? Are you ready? Are you happy? Is
But
there more room?
where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Yeah,
So, working on yourself is a ongoing journey. You
for the
cannot,
rest of our life.
yes, you cannot say that you are done. You reach a
No,
level and you want to go to the
let's keep
next.
our cups empty, like Bruce Lee.
Yeah, so my focus is spiritual inspired podcast, which I have interviews. I release interviews every week. It's an interesting and enriching experience meeting with so many guests. I also co-host the podcast Johnny was on, the energy expansion. But again, spiritual inspired is my main focus, and it gives me so much satisfaction when I go through the interaction with a new guest. I read a new book as part of my preparation. Of course, if they are an author, they send me the book, and is part of my research. So that gives me a lot of satisfaction. I learn every single time when I interact with them, and I bring that experience into my next interview. And I really hope to reach 250 interviews by the end of this year. That will be a very interesting accomplishment for me.
Wow, that's
Terrific.
impressive. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Favorite movie? All time favorite movie. Let's get to the
Uh,
important stuff.
Well, usually go with genre because usually people like a certain genre.
Favorite science fiction movie, since you like sci-fi. Read it to.
Dune is a good
Oh,
one.
the David
And
Lynch version or the new
sorry,
one? The David Lynch version
the latest ones.
or
The
the layout?
latest one
Okay,
was
I haven't seen it.
much better.
That's
And
Yes.
Denis Villeneuve. The guy's incredible.
he's
The
Canadian
director.
too, right? Is
Yeah.
it? Oh
Yeah.
wow. And they did two, right?
Yes.
Yes.
True.
I read the first Dune book. That's
Yeah.
one I would definitely go back to.
Is that Frank
I think
Herbert?
yeah.
It's Frank. Yeah, I read that too.
The
Yeah.
sequel's not as much, but the first one is a fantastic. I
I've let
think
that.
I've gone through my whole list here. I think I'm writing on
Yeah.
fumes.
Well, let me
We're
ask
almost
you.
at an hour.
Let me ask you, when you're generous with your time
Thank you
and
so much.
you've come on our show. We really appreciate that, and we'd like to maybe bring you back at some point in the future. But in doing all these interviews and seeing people and meeting people like us, fellow Canadians that are trying to, on our own spiritual journey, we're trying to evaluate our lives through this journey and look at life around us in the second. And Johnny was mentioning ageism a little bit and spiritual. I believe that spirituality is something that will be with our spirit and soul for the eternity, and this particular run is the vessel, the physical vessel that we have carries us through this journey into
Right.
the next. And is there anything that you have discovered, an epiphany, something recently with all your life experience thus far, that you perhaps have found a way to move forward on this journey in a clearer and more concise, happy, confident way?
No matter how much money you are going to have, no matter how much success in business you are going to have, if you don't have a spiritual component, in the end you are going to feel empty.
Right.
And last week, I published an interview with Kute Blackson. He is the guru of billionaires and millionaires. And these guys have everything they can think of in terms of material things, but they miss the spiritual component. So when you have a guy at that level coming to you begging for help, you would understand that you are much more rich
Yeah.
spiritually,
'Cause
internally
money
than
comes
he
and
is.
goes, but the spirit is eternal.
Exactly. So I coined the term on my website and on the soulawakeningstore.com under the about link, the chief consciousness officer. And I told the world, if you know someone who is rich but is missing a component, which is consciousness and awakening, put them in contact with me, because then I can show him how to make donations which will have an impact without the intermediary, with no big salaries being paid to the organizations which are transferring the funds to the end user, because they are missing this, I think, grassroots component. And they send money maybe to big organizations, CEOs, big overhead.
Just for whatever break they can get.
Right.
Exactly. But if you want to have an impact, you go and build a school in Cameroon. You build a water solar system in Ghana. You do something for the indigenous tribes in South America. They need that.
Leaving something
There are
behind.
so many things, and again, with very little money,
Yeah.
because these guys are happy with 10,000. They can take $10,000 or $20,000 and
They
turn
won't make
it
it.
into a big, if have a big effect on what
Right.
on their projects.
Maybe build a hospital. Right. For
Or
example.
build an organic
Or a
water system
library.
Yeah,
for
Right.
the village.
yeah.
Right.
Fresh water, like that was very impressive. Thank you for that. Well, listen, I just wanted to, in that being said, I do apologize, gentlemen. That was on my
Things
end.
happen beyond our
No,
control.
it's not. I'm in a situation where my old modem is old, apparently, and I guess technology advances so quickly. And they sent me a new one, but my wife's not here. She's in Vancouver. I'm in Kelowna, and I am, for a better. Johnny knows this. I am technologically challenged, and the
Oh
fact
well.
that I've managed to be
It
able
means you're
to
normal.
I've managed to be able to do 65 videos is just remarkable for me. And it's probably 75 because I probably lost 8 or 9 along the way. But in the meantime, it's in my spiritual journey, I will educate myself on the technical aspects of filmmaking and journalism and podcasting and YouTubing. But in the meantime, thanks again. It was
Thanks,
really a
Claudia.
really nice pleasure
Thank
to
you.
meet with you and to feel your energy, because you got good energy, bro, and we know Johnny does,
Do you
and
like Star Trek? Live
I
long and
certainly
prosper.
do. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Had to get that in there.
Double V's.
Many,
Thank you.
many.
Um,
Thank you
Did
very
you
and
much.
bring a book? Did you bring a book,
and
Paul? A book?
I didn't, but he has enough books. So
Okay.
why don't we just go through the books that you brought, and talk about your website?
I got
We'll
this at
do
the library today.
we'll
X-Men.
do
By
Johnny. We'll
Stanley
do
and Josh
Johnny
Ruby.
first.
I
Okay.
got this at the library. I'm usually have 3 or 4 books going at the same time, and one of
Yeah.
them has to be comic books. I'm a 15-year-old comic book nerd. This is the first 10 issues of the Uncanny X-Men with the original team, written by the legendary Stanley. Was my favorite writer as a boy. Did you read comic books when you were a boy? Did you have comic books in Romania?
Very few.
Okay.
Yeah. And why don't we just go through your books really
Yeah,
quick?
let's
I've
look at your
just
books again, Claudio. It's all
Okay,
about you.
so the first one, the decadence of our souls.
Very nice. I love that.
Then the second, water entanglement.
Oh, great covers.
Volume 1 and Volume 2 is Crystal Cloud, and I expect Volume 3 will be Water Confessions, like a diary about what happened and how everything evolved from the first and the second.
Now,
Cool.
I go to Indigo Books 3, 4 times a week. If I look for you on the shelf, will I be able to find one of your books?
On their online, I think you're going to find them.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
terrific.
Knowledge Keepers, as I mentioned, short stories.
Yeah.
There is another anthology which I don't have here. It's called Love Letters to Water, 34 contributors from 14 countries. That was with a Canadian publisher. Um, I forgot. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay. And then this one, the alternative methods of healing, released this week.
Right.
Fantastic.
20,
Fantastic.
Yeah, it looks great.
21 contributors, my interviews, 400 pages with practical advice at the end of each chapter, or
Nice.
on how to improve your spiritual practice.
Nice.
Very
And
good. Very good.
just because I am reading something right now, unfortunately, it's not a fiction or nonfiction or a sports basketball. I, I'm
Porn.
actually
Reading porn.
I've been in real estate for about 24 years now. I'm a licensed realtor for 18 years. I'm an investor. I'm a landlord for 21 years. And the one thing I'm reading right now is, as sad as it is it is for one of my properties. My primary residence in Vancouver is a condo, and this is our annual general meeting notice, of which we
No.
just had. And I just looked at how much I have to pay for a levy
I'll
for
wait for the
complete
movie.
for complete piping of the building. Real estate's a whole different ball game, but I used to play professional basketball, so I'm a hoop junkie. I still a licensed realtor, an investor, and landlord, and I love YouTube because I haven't had cable for 17 years, and that's where I discovered YouTube. I realized that there was a passion for it, and it took me 15 years to be able to get this show going. So, people like yourself, Johnny, I couldn't do it without you, and to be able to have
Oh, you
someone
could. You could.
someone no, trust me, I
You
couldn't.
could actually
So,
could do it without me.
and
But
to
I
have
appreciate
someone as
that.
effervescent as Claudio on the show,
Mm.
and being a writer, and love your style, love your energy, and we're going to bring you on again. And if at any time you would like to bring on a realtor, ex professional basketball player, ex actor,
That's a
model,
hint.
and someone who was in the hospitality industry for almost 30 years, I got a lot of stuff to say, a lot of stuff to talk about.
If you know any leggy supermodels and you want to bring them onto the show, we're totally cool with that.
Those days are long gone. Sorry,
Um,
Johnny.
before we go, I do have a pun. We have time for
Okay,
that?
quick
Here we
pun,
go.
quick
We end
pun.
each episode with a pun, Claudio. Hold on to your seat. Here we go. I had breakfast this morning at a French restaurant. The waiter asked me, "Would you like one egg or two?" I said, "One egg is enough." Thank you.
Hey, I mean, it's what Johnny does. Anybody, we're gonna wrap everything up. I just want to say thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for joining
Claudia.
Thank you.
this yeah, it was just
Sorry about the
wonderful to have
glitches.
you,
It happened.
and of course to have the co-host with the most, Johnny Leister, a couple of prolific writers on the show. We all love writing. This is our seventh episode of the interview series. I love the T-shirt that Claudio is wearing. It's all about peace, love, and happiness, and being surrounded by the white
I
light of
feel more
love.
peaceful just looking at it. I feel cool.
Namaste, peace and
Namaste.
love
Yeah,
to
this is the
everybody.
logo of my podcast, Spiritual
Yeah,
Inspired.
beautiful,
It's a
beautiful.
cool
And
logo.
for those that like this type of show, if you have time, at our logo on the very bottom, there is a subscribe button. We're very happy. We just got 4 subscribers in the last week, so that's
Cool.
kind of rare. That's a positive step in the right direction. But in the
What is
meantime,
it free?
thank you for joining us for
Thank you.
episode 37 of the first iteration, which is all things or most things Canadian with Pauly and Johnny. The second iteration I've done, I'll be 24th video. I'll be doing my 24th episode later this afternoon, and it's all basketball with the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Raleigh. We're talking about the NBA playoffs right now, on the road and the battle to the playoffs. It's ongoing. It's fascinating for those that like hoops. And the third iteration was going to be all Canadian real estate with Pauly, or Paul Bale, and guests. And I'm in the process of adding that to the Canadian Bro Show. In the meantime, thank you kindly for everybody watching. Claudio, thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us, and Johnny, thank you for just being a friend
Thank you,
for over
sir.
5 decades, bro. Love you.
Likewise. Likewise. Thank you, Claudio. That was great. We got through it.
We did get through it. And I do
It was a
apologize again.
little nerve-wracking, but we did it.
It's all good. It's all good. It happens. And in the meantime, I'm going to shut her down if I can figure out how to do that. I've got to press the stop button, so bear with
Cheers,
me.
everyone. Be kind. Be loving.
Yeah.
Love
Hey,
yourself.
be kind. As
Manifest
Johnny,
your dreams.
we love to say, be kind. It's free out there, everybody.
Set an
Um,
example.
take care. Peace, love, and happiness. And get out and vote. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.